Hey, so I'm going to show y'all how I do my knotless braids. So these are some of the products I use and tools. I have that Eben, that's for around the edges. I have that pure neat braid. I use that throughout. And then I have that set and mousse from Shine and Jam. There's some other tools. All right, so I actually used expression braiding hair. I normally go between expression braiding hair and free twist. This is 42 inches. So normally if my clients say that they want their braids mid-back, I'll use the 42-inch expressions braiding hair pre-stretched. I bought 2 packs of this. And I actually had some other hair left over of another color, so you'll see that I use that a little bit throughout. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just taking the hair and putting it into portions. That way I can feed these pieces of hair into the braid. As you know, that's the idea behind knotless. You want to be able to get a look that looks super natural. So yeah, just being able to feed these small pieces of hair in, you'll have a more natural look. All right, so now we are getting into my client's hair. Definitely asked her for permission to record. She was super cool with that. Put a little bit of product on there. Normally, you know, I'll tell people not to put too much on there. I don't mind a little oil, but nothing too major. But because she had that color, I did want to put a little bit of product. So now I'm just sectioning off the hair. So these are going to be medium knotless braids. Normally when you're doing like that nape or that, you know, the back of the head, you don't want to portion it off too small, just because I've had clients tell me, you know, if your braids are going to get loose, those are probably going to be the first ones to get loose, because when you put your scarf on, yeah, it causes a lot of friction. So have my comb, put a little bit of that pure neat braid styling gel on the hair. Every client is going to be different just so far as how you want to part the hair. For her medium knotless braids, I did put 4 braids in the back because I realized if I would have put 3, it wouldn't have looked as full. And you just really have to pay attention to your client's hair, right? Depending on the thickness or fullness of their hair, then that'll kind of determine, like, you know, what size you may want the braids to be. But I wanted to make hers as full as possible so that, you know, her hair could have that fullness. She has really fine hair. All right, so starting to feed in the first knotless braid. I portioned it into 3 parts, fed that 1 piece in. You're just kind of going like you're corn rolling. So added 1 piece in. There's the second piece. All right, sorry, my arm's getting in the way. 3rd piece. 4th piece. All right, and then I'm braiding it down a little bit. So sometimes, depending again on the thickness of my client's hair, I might just start braiding it down a little bit, maybe like 1 or 2 times, then I'll add in a piece of hair. But because I wanted my client's hair to look full all the way from the root, I did start feeding the hair in at the top. And I made the pieces really small because I still want it to look really natural, but I did start feeding it in at the root. Just braiding it down. When I start to get towards the end of my client hair, I might add a little bit more of that styling gel, and then I'm also just adding, you know, a piece in like halfway through just to add a little bit more length, so they may be a little longer than mid back, but I mean, that's fine. Normally people don't complain if they're a little bit longer. So all right, so just have it stand up. Just continuing to, you know, go through part braid. I have 3 rows, you know, up until the top of her ears. I think there were 4 braids in that back row, 5 in the next row, and then maybe like 6 in that third row. Could be 6 or 7. I can't really tell from looking. So now I just sectioned off the top portion of her hair, and now I'm just parting it down the middle. Just because I parted in the middle doesn't mean you can't still put it to the side. Just like to do it to the middle because I know people like to have that variety when they're styling their hair. So what I'll do now, since they're medium, is I'm going to put 5 rows on each side. So there we go. Just gonna go ahead and create 5 rows. And I like to do it like this just because if you keep going from the back to the front, sometimes you don't know exactly what the parts will look like by the time you get to the front unless you do a whole pre-parting on the entire head beforehand. So you'll see I do a mix of like pre-parting and then also just kind of just going, just freestyling in a sense. So now just putting the braids in on the sides. And I guess something to note, all your clients are different, so you may want to ask, like, do you want some baby hairs out? Like, I know some of my clients, they will, say yes to that look, and some people don't necessarily like dealing with the baby hairs because you have to maintain them, so you just want to make sure that you ask before you just, give people the whole shebang, and then, you see a client on Instagram looking crazy because, like, you left all this hair out, but they don't know how to maintain it sometimes. It's not easy, so you just gotta know, your client and make sure you ask beforehand. Alright, so now just pausing again so that I can show you all how I feed the braids in again, or feed the pieces in to create that knotless braid. So I put some gel on there with the comb. Alright, now I'm just sectioning it into 3 parts. Alright, you can see those 3 parts. Again, I'm just acting like I'm corn rolling. Alright, and I just do it one time. And I'm going to add a small piece of hair in. Alright, sometimes I like to, put the smaller pieces at the furthest, closest to the root. Alright, and then I'm just going to feed 4 in back to back. This is not my technique for every client, but like I said, you just have to, assess your client's hair and see what makes the most sense, what's going to give it the most natural look, but then also give it that fullness. So I fed 4 small pieces in at the top. And I love having like this stand because I can always just move it to wherever I need it to be, rather than having like, the tabletop stands. Super convenient. Got it off Amazon. Alright, so now I'm just feeding pieces in wherever it makes sense, braiding a little down, adding a piece in, braiding a little down, adding a piece in, just until the braid, looks the same size as the rest of the braids. Sometimes I might have a super strategic plan on like, I'm going to add 5 pieces in each time, but sometimes, it's just about, all right, how can I get the look that I desire and that thickness of the braid that I want. Alright, so you can see it's nice and flat. Alright, so I'm gonna just keep throwing these things in. It got a little chilly, that's why you can see that heater. All right, and then, you know, probably about 3 or maybe 4 times I'll have to like re-up on the hair on my stand, depending on how many pieces I'm feeding into each braid. But I was feeding a lot of pieces into each of her braids. I can imagine I was feeding in maybe 6, 7, 8 to each braid. It just differed depending on the sizes of the pieces I was feeding in. But as you can see, like my client, she has really fine hair, so I just wanted to make sure I was being super strategic so that she could, you know, have that fullness. All right, and then I added a couple of like brown honey blondish pieces. I can't remember the name of that mix. I can imagine it's a little bit of a 27 in there somewhere, because she had blonde in her, you know, in her hair. All right, so we are all done. Okay, it's cute. Just trimming it up a little bit. Trim. I mean, when I dip it, some of that'll, you know, lay down anyways, but I still just like to, you know, trim it up. All right, have my little electric kettle. Super convenient. I mean, most braiders have that. If you don't, you need to make sure you get one. All right, just dipping them. It came out real cute. You know, yeah, we weren't getting into no crazy baby hairs, but just making it a little sleek, adding some mousse. All right, I didn't put this at the beginning, but I do like to add oil to my client's hair, just to make sure it's staying moisturized. All right, now get into it. It's nice and neat. All right, and these will last, you know, some clients keep them in for a couple months and a half. At first we had the part in the middle, but I kind of gave it a little bit of a side part. Here you can see the length and the color. But yeah, this is how they came out. Yeah, just be sure to like, subscribe, and yeah, see you next time.